So I actually want to talk about in the imposter syndrome, or just mental health in general, because I think it's important to let other people know that, hey, they're not the only ones, and it's okay to be you, and really be open about these kind of things, because I think the whole world needs to know this stuff. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massack. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people who help me out that I want to pay the favor for, to help you out as much as I possibly can. It's interesting to note that I am this, sophisticated, even that, right? Like, I can't even say the fact that I'm an associate professor. I have tenure at a really good institution, in a business school. It's incredibly difficult to sort of compete and get in these things. It's interesting that I still feel like I don't belong, right? So that's like kind of the fundamental thing with imposter syndrome, is that you always feel like an outsider, no matter who you are and what you do, right? And I think it's part of, I don't know. It's a very micro thing to study, micro being sort of psychological thing to study, and I don't study that as much, but I know, some sort of the psychology research, and I know some of sociology research, and I'm probably more of a sociologist than a psychologist in terms of what I read and do, but this feeling of, especially when you jump social class, I grew up in a very working class family. My parents did not complete high school. My mom did later on in life, once I was in university. And getting to high school, like a high school degree was considered something that was like really an amazing accomplishment, and it is, right? Like, it is a big deal. I don't want to diminish that. For most people, it is a really big deal. However, going on and continuing to go on, society's changing. Higher education is becoming. It's not a prerequisite. I don't believe in education. Any education is like a prerequisite for anything. But, it's becoming more increasingly common to see people getting a higher education degree, just percentage-wise. And there is just, going through all of this and coming from, the background that I came from, I've never, ever felt that I've belonged in any of these social circumstances. I've never felt that it's been, that I've been part of anything, right? Like that I am part of, that. Sorry, I was turning on the heater in the car. It's a little chilly out today. It's in December right now. I live in Florida, but Florida still gets cool. I wouldn't say it's cold, but cool. You never feel like you quite fit in. And I think part of that has to do with, looking back and thinking about this. I did not fit in high school, or I didn't feel like that until especially towards the end, or once I got to like grade 11, grade 12, things started to click, and I think sort of hormones started to diminish, and I think that this is true for a lot of people. But yeah, I definitely did not feel like I fit in high school. I did not have any friends for a few years, grade 9, grade 10. It was a really particularly tough time of going from, I was in a small public school growing up, like 80 students. And then I moved to a high school that had 1,000 students after that, and that transition was quite difficult. I didn't have any particular friend or friends for a couple of years until I found somebody that was pretty awesome, and a group that was pretty awesome. And until I found that, I wandered for a long time, and that sort of was the formative years, and that sort of framed who I was, as kind of an outsider. And that's okay. That sort of helped me deal later on in life. I think it's kind of a wonderful thing to know that I can stand on my own 2 feet and I don't need to rely on anybody. And that was actually really, really important. I would never do anything like this. I wouldn't dream of doing it if I didn't have that experience where it was like, okay, screw them, I'm just going to do it anyways, right? And then have that confidence of doing that. I've always wanted, and this has sort of been part of, this is like a super big pull, but I think this is true for a lot of people. I feel like I'm pulled to, it's almost like a desire, right? Like it's almost to that point where it's like part of human nature to belong and to move up, not only belong, but like get affirmation from higher social class. And that is deeply rooted in me. That's very much deeply rooted in me. And a lot of the struggles, and this is where I want to go, is, I struggled a lot in public school. I was in special ed for years, I think until grade 5. Until things started to settle down, and then I got into, they did some tests and stuff like that, and they realized that I was doing okay in other areas, but it turns out that I had ADHD, but I guess it's ADD with attention deficit disorder, which is somewhat common. I wouldn't say that is like really common, but it's definitely there. And the thing is that there's some aspects of my life that I deal with every day that are really tough, and I don't know what everybody else goes through in terms of being able to sit down and write and do those kind of things. This is actually the fundamental reason why I started the whole Reciprocity project, was because, like, hey, I'm, an engineer, business entrepreneurship professor. I could build a platform. And that's what reciprocity.com is. The E is written with a 3. And I could build a platform to help me write, and I'm not the only one that's like this, so why can't I build something that actually helps other people, deal with the challenges of writing when you've got, various different, whether you call it a disability or mental health, whatever, I don't know what the heck you call it. But, you got these sort of different ways of thinking. And I'm a bigger fan of the, the way that it's been reframed as of the last few years of neurodiversity, because we all think differently. We all have sort of different ways of thinking. Or how we actually think about things, and we need to have more things in place that allow that to occur. And we need, and I think with the various different technologies that we have available now, we can build something that helps that, and that's what I'm doing at this moment, sort of putting things together. Go check it out if you haven't. But the thing is. I always kind of felt like an outsider even then, because it was a struggle to, read and pay attention. I certainly felt like I had friends and I belonged at that point until maybe about grade 4. And then, growth and hormones and all that stuff starts kicking in, and then you start feeling like much more of an outsider. But, coming back to the idea of the imposter syndrome, is that this is really part of who you are. And I think that comes from being, a neurodivergent person. right? That you don't think like the standard person, whatever the standard person is. The more that I have sort of studied things and thought about things, is averages and sort of how we depict normal is not great. That's not, like, everybody's different, and normal is not a great way to sort of view things. So what we need to start thinking is just being open with the fact that we all think differently. I forget everything. I cannot remember a darn thing, no matter what. You ask my wife, she always thinks it's pretty funny. So I'm always forgetting things, like my wallet, and I forget where it is, and you can have all these checklists, it still doesn't work, because you forget about the checklist, like all of that kind of stuff, right? I don't take any medication, and that's because I learned to deal with this, and I found out when I was much older, when I was 39, that I was sort of dealing with this after sort of looking back and thinking, oh my God, like, look at all of the pattern there, and did the test and all that stuff. And the only test it was the only test that was really, I can ace without thinking about it. So what I'm getting to is that we just need to destigmatize a lot of this stuff and sort of reassure people that, hey, a lot of us do feel like imposters. A lot of us feel like we're never going to belong or be the, establishment. A lot of us feel like we're just kind of looking from the outside in. A lot of us never quite feel like we are there, and will ever get there, and that is okay, right? And we just have to simply just say, hey, you know what? It's part of life, and that's part of what we deal with. That's okay, and it's okay to openly talk about these things, right? That there is nobody's going to jump on you, nobody is going to, all of these kind of things. It's hard for me to be open about that with other people in an open setting. But I think it's important for us to realize that this is just part of our life. For all of us that sort of experience this. People that don't experience, they're never going to listen to this podcast anyways, right? Like, they're not. They're too good, I guess, to ever listen to it. So, but, just learn that I've had to come to a huge amount of acceptance in the last few years. There was a real turning point of discovering this, and coming to a point of acceptance of, like, hey, this is me, and this is okay, and I think we need to get to that point, or you need to get to that point of just being like, hey, this is me. All right, cool. Let's run. Let's go. And let's figure out how to, deal with this. There's that. And then the other thing to sort of deal with is, no, you're never going to feel like you fit in. I've been, I'm 42 years old now, been feeling like an imposter my whole life. It's never going to go away. And then the other thing to realize is that you just simply got to go through the motions. You just have to simply get up and go, get going. Realize that, hey, there's going to be lots of times where you're going to miss out on all sorts of opportunities because you're just, you're just not there, right? Like, you're going to pass over those opportunities because of all of these things, right? You're going to feel like you're not good enough. You're not going to feel like you're not quite there. And I used to think that, I do get frustrated. I do get emotional and struggle with that in terms of dealing with it. But realize that when you go through, all of this stuff and you get opportunities that you missed out and all those kind of things, don't necessarily take it out on you. No, it's just like, hey, that's just who you are. And that is okay. I mean, being a good person matters more than absolutely anything than, like, that you're highly efficient and effective and all that crap, right? Like, I am so, and this is part of the thing that I realize of like, of being who I am at this moment, is I've realized all of these self-help books, 50 ways to memorize people's names, or, 50 ways of becoming an effective leader, and all that stuff, is a load of hogwash. An absolute load of hogwash. Memory aids, all those kind of things. It's just absolute hogwash. I don't believe in any of those things. What I do believe in is, having good sort of intention to do good things and being a good person, looking out for other people. But then on top of that, putting in systems in place that allow you to take some of the cognitive load off of yourself, right? And having it part of a social structure, and part of who you are as in doing this is your everyday thing, right? Like, one of the most effective things that I've learned, or one of the most sort of one of the best New Year's resolutions I've ever done, is flossing my teeth. And I just made it as like, this is where I'm going to floss my teeth at the end of the night. I'm going to do that once a day, and that became a thing, right? Like, and it became like, it's like I don't even think about it now. I just do it. And you have to sort of have those kind of things that are just ingrained, right? Like, pilot checklists, or airplane flight checklists, they work, and they're really effective because they're part of a social process. They're part of doing the things that you're doing, and looking for little tricks like that. They do work, but like all of the, all of the sort of not all of them, a lot of the self-helpy stuff, and leadership stuff is just hogwash. You just have to want to get up, be a good person, be happy that you did that when you go to bed, and give yourself a lot of forgiveness of dealing with the day-to-day. So that's all I wanted to talk about, is do yourself a lot of good, be a good person, and give yourself a lot of grace when things don't work out the way that you thought it would. And just be happy with who you are. All right, take care, and have a wonderful day.